Hey everyone, Ethan here, and welcome to the first episode of WordCast Lite. Now, those of you that follow the channel for a long time know that we do a weekly podcast every Wednesday, all about tech news, what's happened in the week and whatnot. It's about 2 hours long. Well, this is basically going to be a summation of that kind of stuff. The same stuff that we pick for topics for that is going to be in this, just in a more summarized format with a few things taken out and whatnot, and obviously not anywhere near the amount of detail. So to start things off, and many of you probably already know about this because this is being filmed on Tuesday. Actually, I film these on Mondays or Tuesdays is usually when we put together all the documentation for the videos. But the iPhone 8 and iPhone X both got released, and those are actually the big topics of the week. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of computer news. Usually we talk about PC stuff and whatnot primarily on this channel, especially on these news roundups. That's what the standard is going to be. But for this first one here, we've got the iPhone. So the iPhone 8 is basically the same thing, honestly, when it comes to physical design as the iPhone 7. It looks very similar. It's got the same size screen. It's got the fingerprint sensor, the home button, same colors. I mean, all the same stuff that you would expect. But they finally added wireless charging, which is really, really nice. And there's a glass back to allow the wireless charging, of course, because it can't go through aluminum very well. And it's using the Qi standard. So Apple's actually adopting the Qi standard, which is big, big news for the industry as a whole, simply because Apple, whenever they adopt anything, it tends to start to become the standard, even though that can be unfortunate at times. But Qi right now has kind of been the building standard, and that's what this uses. Obviously, still no headphone jack, so that sucks. It's using the new True Tone display, like the iPad Pro 10.5-inch has, which adjusts color based on the ambient light. So not only is it adjusting the actual light of the screen, which has been around for a really long time using ambient light sensors, it also is going to go ahead and adjust the colors of the screen, which is, it's nice. I'm not sure how well it works. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but I've heard pretty good things about it. The iPhone 8 is using the new A11 Bionic chip. Nothing super special here, but it's a 6-core chip, 2 performance cores, 4 power efficiency cores. It's still kind of weird to me that they are using the 2 high performance and 4 low performance. It seems like it should be flopped in my eyes, or equal, like what Snapdragon does or Qualcomm does with a lot of their Snapdragons, like the 835. But this Bionic chip supports like neural network processing and stuff like that. We'll see what comes of it, but it seems to be nothing super major, but we'll see. They're kind of touting it a lot. And of course it has a new camera, which this is actually probably the big deal other than the wireless charging, is the new camera. So they have a 12 megapixel front camera, so that's also new, but that's not the big news. It's just a nicer front facing camera. But the Plus model's dual camera system has still 2 cameras, but it's got one of them with an aperture of f1.8 and the other one with f2.8. So pretty awesome there. Sounds like it could do some really unique things, but the thing that I'm more excited about actually is 4K 60 FPS video and 1080p 240 FPS video. Now, that's a little weird to me. I mean, I'm shooting on my Panasonic G7 and it's only got 4K 30, so not weird, but more like frustrating that now a phone's doing that. But of course, I mean, I'm sure the quality is going to be nowhere near as good when it comes to actual video quality. But Apple is stating that it is the best camera on a smartphone right now. I don't deny that, but also I wouldn't be surprised if something beat it real soon. So now, the big one that a lot of you probably know about is the iPhone X. It's a $1,000 iPhone, the premium iPhone, so to speak, or really realistic. It's the 10th iPhone. That's what the X is for. And really, the 8 is more like a 7S refresh. It's nothing major. I don't even know why they called it an 8. I think it would have made a lot more sense to call it an iPhone 7S. Now, the iPhone X has a whole new design. It is bezel-less, although not as bezel-less as something like the likes of the Galaxy Note or S series, or even like the Essential phone. But it is still pretty nice. Honestly, I don't love the design too much myself, but that's all subjective. I think it's still cool that Apple's trying to do something different, and it's also got the glass back because it supports Qi charging, of course, and the A11 Bionic chip. 5.8-inch OLED display. That's some big news there. They're actually finally using an OLED display, which is something we've been waiting for, and that might help boost production a little bit and actually lower the costs of OLED displays, which could potentially help certain manufacturers. Although with its weird resolution of 1125 by 2436, I don't know how much it's really going to help, because it's not like another phone's going to be using the same panel. Maybe Apple does that weird resolution stuff specifically to make it so people can't use their same panel. I'm not sure, but not 1440p, but still probably pretty great when it comes to the display. I haven't seen that in person either, but I've been really happy with 1440p, and I think just a slight bit above that would be like ideal for a phone. This is kind of not in that direction. You know, it's back a little bit, but oh well. The upper of the phone has a big top like lip area, if you want to call it, or something like that, or forehead, but the screen wraps around it somewhat. I don't think it's the best design myself either, because it takes up so much space for that upper area, but you know, I mean, whatever. It's not like the Essential phone where it's just the camera peeking in, you know, it's more than half the width of the phone. So that's just my opinion though. Again, you might love the design, and I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff happening here either way. So the front of the phone uses true depth camera system and Face ID. Basically, it unlocks the phone with your face by doing red dot mapping and stuff like that on your face. We'll see how well it really works. People are saying that it works good, but of course those are the Apple demos that show that it works good. So I'll wait for the reviews to see how well that actually works, but I still prefer a fingerprint sensor. I think it makes more sense. It's more intuitive in a lot of ways. You can have it unlocked before you even look at the phone. If you've got the fingerprint sensor like on the back, for example, you unlock it as you're pulling it out of your pocket or whatever. I prefer that than having to look at the phone, but you know, we'll see how it goes. We'll also see what kind of battery life drain that has. That's one concern that I have. So whatever. No home button. So it's all gesture based. You swipe up to get to the home screen, and you swipe up and hold to get to the multitasking screen. I don't know if it's going to be that intuitive, but it's probably something people will get used to pretty quick. I personally prefer, just like what I do with my Android phones, is just hiding the virtual on-screen buttons and then just swiping up when I need to use them. That's my preference, and especially with the Galaxy S8, you just push harder with that, you know, pressure sensitive home button area, and that works too. So you don't, for a home button, you don't even have to swipe up. I like that approach myself. That way when I need the full screen, I can get it, or in this case, most of the time. But Apple wants to give you all screen, basically, you know, so that they didn't want to have to add virtual buttons. They've never done that, so maybe it makes sense, and I think people will get used to that. A couple things that actually confuse me about this, though, and this can, I'm hoping, be changed in software, but unless this was reported wrong by a couple of articles that I read, the control center, you swipe from the top right down. But notifications, you swipe from the top left down, which seems completely opposite since the majority of people are right-handed, and when you're right-handed, you're trying to reach up with your thumb, say, to grab, you know, notifications. You're going to be grabbing the control center instead. That makes literally no sense to me. I don't know why I would want the control center on the right when chances are, like, whenever I reach for my notifications, I go on the right. Most right-handed people probably do that. I think it would make more sense. I'm sure it's switchable. I sure hope so, so that way people that are, you know, if they did it the other way, people that are left-handed could get it, because I'd be complaining about that too. So hopefully those are swappable. I didn't actually find any information directly on that. Kind of weird. They're claiming it has double the battery life of the iPhone 7, so we'll see how that goes. But, you know, it wouldn't surprise me really realistically, especially if they're comparing it to the standard 7, not the 7 Plus, which has a substantially smaller battery than the 7 Plus. So you're probably looking at maybe like, you know, a 50 to 60% improvement over the 7 Plus or something like that, rather than double, but still probably all day battery life is my assumption, assuming Face ID doesn't take ridiculous amounts of power. And it should be releasing in November. So I hope you guys are excited for that. I think it's cool. I won't be getting one, but it's definitely interesting. I was hoping for a little bit more innovation, and honestly, from the 10th anniversary iPhone, I thought they were going to do something really special. It's definitely different, and I like that about it. You know, I'm not complaining about it being different. I'm not denying, you know, that it's different, but I was hoping for something really special. A little bit more Apple news for you guys. So the Apple TV got updated with 4K HDR playback and better performance. So those are all good things to see. But the bigger things in my eyes, you know, those were kind of, we expected those to come. The bigger things for me is actually what they're doing with the service behind Apple TV. So 1080p movies that you purchase on your older Apple TV, you automatically get the 4K version for free. So that's cool. You don't have to pay more for it, which is nice because a lot of services will try and charge you more for the higher resolution content, right? But even better is all the 4K movies that you can buy on it now are the same price as the 1080p movies were. A couple other things about the Apple TV. It's $179 for the 32 gigabyte version and $199 for the 64 gigabyte version. So I think it's about time that the Apple TV got updated, and it's good to see. So a couple of other little pieces of news. Again, nothing major in PC hardware this week, unfortunately, but one interesting announcement for PC enthusiasts. Philips is releasing a 49-inch ultrawide. Now, you guys saw that crazy 32:9 ultrawide that Samsung announced. We talked about that in WordCast, and WordCast Lite wasn't around then, but you know, we would have talked about it if WordCast Lite was around then, but I'm sure you guys saw this massive ultrawide. Well, this is Philips' take at it, which I find kind of surprising that Philips is even making high-end monitors right now. But it should be coming out next year, probably around the $1,000 price tag, which is about $500 cheaper than the Samsung ultrawide 32:9. 3840 by 1080p, so still 1080p panel, right? It's just really wide. But it's got 600 nits of brightness, which is interesting, and it's got a 5001 contrast ratio. Both of those are pretty solid numbers. The brightness in particular, a lot of times, panels are only looking at like 300 to 400 nits, so I do like to see a brighter panel like that. 1000 nits is the end goal if you want to do HDR. So I can tell you this probably won't support FreeSync 2 because of the HDR requirement. It can't do 1000 nits, but I wouldn't be surprised if it supports FreeSync 1. So that would be a good thing to see as well. And weirdly enough, it has a gigabit Ethernet port. Not sure why. I don't think anybody knows why. I couldn't find more information on it after doing research, but apparently it has one, assuming that doesn't change before release. Like I said, it's coming out probably sometime next year, but I don't know what that would be used for, unless it's got like a router built in or something weird like that, or maybe it's just so that it can get firmware updates, but I would think they would just build Wi-Fi in then, because it's probably about the same price at, for the hardware there. So not quite sure why they did that. Toshiba is selling off their memory division. So this is confirmed as far as I understand, and they should be selling it to Western Digital, which is interesting, meaning Western Digital is probably going to be getting pretty heavily into the SSD market, and they're selling it for $18.3 billion. Now this surprises me because it's a very profitable area as far as I understood for Toshiba. They've been around for a while. OCZ is, Toshiba makes the NAND that's in all the OCZ stuff. So I don't really understand why this is happening. I don't understand what Toshiba was thinking. I would think there would be profit in it and they wouldn't want to sell it. But I guess if Western Digital is willing to pay a pretty penny for it so they can start making SSDs, then by all means. The thing is, Toshiba is not the best player in the industry right now. That would be realistically Samsung. And obviously they're not going to be able to buy off Samsung's division. But I'm not sure what they're going to do to separate themselves and compete very well. So we'll see what comes of this. But yeah, Western Digital apparently is behind Toshiba's memory division. And last little piece of news here is PUBG, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, is getting fog. So, nothing major there, but it's just kind of cool. I think that'll be nice for people that are, trying to hide a little bit better. It's going to make it so that you don't just get gunned down running through a field, for example, which happens often in that game. Is you're like, I have to run through a field. I have no choice. I don't have a vehicle. And you can't see other people because they're all sitting still. Maybe they're already inside the circle or whatever. You're running through a field and you get gunned down. This should, in theory, help with that some. That is part of the game, that's part of the skill, it's part of the risk. Totally understand there. I'm just saying this would be nice for people that maybe hope that doesn't happen as much, or get a little bit annoyed by it. Anyway, everybody, thank you for joining me for the first episode of WordCast Lite. There'll be another one next week on Thursday, as usual. That's that's our upload schedule. So anyway, lots of news this week, but not as much PC news as I would like. Hopefully next week there's some more PC releases and whatnot. Thank you, everybody, for watching.